Oh, the day is here. It's finally upon us. What seems like an eternity of an offseason comes to its conclusion tonight. It is Jason Martinez. It is Brian Smith. And I'm going to give a nice, big, grandiose intro to the one and only Chris Therien. Now, Chris Therien played 764 games in the NHL. 753 of them were for the Flyers. He was a top pairing defenseman. He comes to us by way of Ottawa, Ontario, and he returns home to the Flyers Broadcast Network. It is Chris Therien. Bundy, what's happening?
Great to be back for, I think, my fifth stint with the team. As a player, broadcaster, I've done it all here, boys. I have literally done it all. I've done radio full-time. I've done TV on the main broadcast. I've done pre and post on NBC, and I've done pre and post with you before, Jason, on radio. So I've dialed it in and covered a lot of it, and good to be joining you guys for the pre-games this year. And I love the location. I can't lie about that.
Yeah, you're at home. You're in the home studio. I think I turned myself up when I meant to turn myself down. There we go. Our producer tells us, look, it's the first game of the year, so we're working out some of the kinks.
Yeah.
The three-person booth here in the pregame show, which is going to be a lot of fun. When we get to home games, we'll kind of explain to people, what we're doing in that regard. We're going to have a little bit of a total coverage, and Bundy going to be on the concourse with the people, and Brian and myself down. I'll be down by the locker room and giving you lines from the benches. We don't have to rely on other people, but guys, here's the thing. This is it. And we're at this point, like Smitty, you go through an offseason, you have all this logistical stuff that gets no glory, media guides and all this stuff for years. You've been doing it. You're finally at the season. It's kind of just like, oh, thank God. Now we can play hockey.
Yeah, exactly. And especially the current situation that the team is in. Obviously, big changes come down in May. And ever since May, it's just been talking about how we're going to, start some new stuff, and we're going to bring all these things to the table, and we're going to do all these things. And it's a lot like what Tort said, you talk. Now it's time to finally do it. And you're looking forward to getting the opportunity to finally get out there and do some stuff here. So that's what we're doing here tonight. And then, next Tuesday we have even more stuff in store. So we're really looking forward to getting things going here over the next few days.
Bundy, as a player for all those years, you have like this biological clock that through your whole life, you go through your summer, you're preparing for a season. At this point, when a season is just starting, do you still get that like kind of flutter, like, this is the part, starting a new season as a player, you're like, paychecks are good and it's a good life to live.
Yeah.
You still get that vibe kind of at the beginning of every season?
I remember an opening night, I was nervous no matter it was a home game or a road game. And I assume we probably had some pretty good home openers and road, games on the road that we played. I remember one year we opened in Edmonton, lost there, and then had a big win against Calgary the next night. But it's just there's a lot of excitement around everything with the opening of the season. New faces, right? You get the new list of guys coming in. You see the hype with a guy like Fantilli tonight and Bedard the last two nights, scoring last night. So, and then again, just get your own team, just from a league generally, just generalizing in terms of where you're at. But for me, I was nervous. I was excited, but it's the beginning of an 82-game marathon again. And that's what you're facing. So as I got older, guys, I can certainly tell you that it became more of a job where I understood my body more. When you're younger, your first 3 years, you're so excited being there, being part of the league, being part of the new lineup. But I think you forget about what it's like to be a pro. But then after you get older and things settle in more with a family or kids, I do think that clock does become more of a thing for you, where you're pre-programmed into what your whole year looks like. And certainly now I can tell you with the training regime these guys put on now, I mean, it's 12 months. You get a couple weeks off, maybe if you want to take it, and then away you go.
Let's talk about the offseason changes, because there's a lot different. I talked with Torts about this on today's Flyers Daily. You can hear it, just that so much feels different. Now, they're obviously Dan Hilferty at the top, guy you play with in Keith Jones and you worked alongside for so many years, Bundy, is the president of hockey operations. Danny Briere, who we've known for a long time as a player here, and then his transition into an executive. And just everybody kind of being on the same page. Like, I feel like it's trickled down into the players as well, because the messaging has been consistent, concise, and I think everybody feels like they're on the same page. Bundy, talk about what this new front office and just the vibe right now around the organization.
You know what? We interviewed Jonesy on my pod, Snow the Goalie, with Anthony and Russ Joy, Anthony Sanfilippo and Russ Joy the other day, and we were talking about, really what was something that, I saw Jonesy. What did you see that was different, or what did you want to have changed? And it kind of goes back to culture. Like, listen, I'm not going to sit here, and I'm pretty vocal over even my time away from the team. There was a culture loss here, and that reverberated through the fan base, and the fans saw that. They felt it. And there's a lot of passion in this town about the 4 major sports teams. If people care deeply for the Flyers, they were the team that kind of put, I think, Philly on the map in a lot of ways. Blue collar, hard nosed stuff in the 70s, and I think that stuck with them for years. So when I talked to Jonesy, the first thing was getting back to making sure our fans are a priority, but also making sure that the culture and the work history of this team doesn't get lost in the middle of things. We spent 5 years. It was hard 5 years, guys. It was like rowing a boat up a river upstream. And I'm excited because I know people in the city that have known Dan Hilferty. He's a great, great man. He's also a good leader. He was the head of a big, big company. Jonesy, I know. I mean, Jonesy's been around the game of hockey, both traveling around doing broadcasts over the years. He knows the ins and outs of the game. He's a good teammate. Danny's been in that spot. When he left hockey, Danny, he ended up being the guy that went to the management side and waited his time, where guys like myself or Jonesy, we decided that would be better off going to broadcasting. And that's kind of how management is formed. You decide if you want to go there. Management wants to have you around and to learn from it. So I'm excited about those 3 guys because they bring relevance back to the team that, quite honestly, guys, had lost relevance in this city. It had fallen back. It was a 5th team in this city in a lot of ways.
Footing.
Yeah. And that will not happen anymore. And yes, Jonesy said to use the word missteps. He's a lot more polite than I am. These were big missteps. And I think what's happened now, guys, is that we've gotten back to the culture with a lot of voices. A lot of people are excited about that. But ultimately, what pays dividends is wins. You can have all the sunshine you want over top of everything, but unless you can turn those into wins and to productive feeling about what this team's doing moving forward, that's ultimately the most important thing.
Yeah, it's a respect for the fan base, respect for the past. You don't have to repeat the past, but you gotta respect it
and honor it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and maybe that's one of the key things, to your point, Bundy, that was lost. Let's take our first time out here on the pregame show. When we come back, Brian, Bundy, and we're going to tell you about all the new things in the Flyers broadcast network, because Bundy alluded to it. Snow the Goalie, they are now involved with us. It's great. We're expanding this on demand and all this great stuff to serve the Flyer fans even better. So let's take our first break. We'll come back with more as the Flyers are going to take on the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. Stay tuned. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. All right, let me...
You can hear me, Jace?
Put up.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I tell him I want to go after Provorov at some point about those stupid comments he made today.
First and foremost, how about this, boys? My daughter just brought me down a plate for dinner.
That's awesome. Beautiful, buddy.
chicken, with some potatoes, a little peas and carrots. That's an absolute. Well, I got this family trained, I'll tell you. In just a moment, I want to get Bundy's thoughts on Ivan Provorov's comments. But first, I have a feeling. But first, Brian, let's tell the people about the FBN, the Flyers Broadcast Network, and what we've added and expanded and built upon.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're kind of headed into uncharted waters with this, this season. And in all honesty, we have a lot of things too that we've been doing that I don't know that a lot of people know about because we've never really talked about them a whole heck of a lot. Obviously, the Flyers Daily, we do that all the time, and that's that's Jason doing this every single day throughout the season. But we've also got Broadcasters Roundtable, which is going to continue in its previous format. A lot of folks might be familiar with that. But Jason, you alluded to it, adding a partnership with Snow the Goalie, where they're going to be on site at home games as well, and bringing some interesting perspectives from right inside the building during games.
Press
kind of
row
alongside
show is
us.
back.
Yeah.
I would have thought, right, guys?
Yeah.
I know we're excited about it. I mean, it's a different perspective, and I just wanted to tell people we had a lot. Great time to talk about it. One of the things they said was, "Well, you guys were kind of like the outlaws in a lot of ways," and I said, "True
Still
to
are.
some degree, but I have a deep love for this organization and for the fans in this town, and that's never changed. But what I will say is that." We talked to Jonesy about this, and he suggested it with Dan Hilford about Snow the Goalie, and we won't change. The Flyers want honesty. If they have an awful night, they want to say it's been that kind of night. The honesty and, again, the integrity that they're pushing out and taking notice of it. There's a lot of teams now that are not selling propaganda like they used to. Honesty works, and making sure your fans are in tune with that and understanding that there's a mission here that they're trying to mobilize Danny, Jonesy, and the rest of the team. And we have to have patience with that. And at least we understand that now. We're not being gaslit into thinking that we had something when we really didn't.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to it, like I've talked about how this fan base has been underserved for years. And the more quality Flyers podcasts and stuff like that that's out there, I'm not a territorial guy. I'm in the Flyers podcast business. I am not I want give the fans what they want. If you want different personalities, different approaches, whatever. That's awesome. And it's not the way of the future. It's the way of the present. That's where we are right now. So I'm thrilled. We were the first team, the Flyers, first team to have a daily podcast. We're going to be the first team that has an affiliate with a podcast that's with another company. I mean, there's a lot of first. Yeah. We were the first team, Bundy, that ever had a radio guy doing pre-intermission and post.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I mean, Bill Meltzer, the great Bill Meltzer. He mentioned on the other day on Facebook. Like I know before you did it, Jason went every day. Me and Bill had this thing where we threw a laptop in front of it and called it Bundy and Bill's Real Deal Hockey. Yeah, and we just put up stuff for a week. But that was kind of the beginning of where we're at. Now you see a myriad of different views, perspectives, different tones. I mean, I'm famous for the Bundy bomb on Snow the Goalie. We will not be getting the Bundy bomb here on 97.5 pregame, or I won't be doing 97.5 pregame anymore. You can do it once. But you know what? I just think it's really cool stuff what the Flyers are doing, and they're trying to get the messaging right. Honest messaging is always best. You can't lie to these fans. They're too smart. No. They're way too smart.
Yeah, that's why I rip the hot take all the time. You can't do the hot take.
Correct. The other thing I'll toss in there too, while we're on the topic, is we don't talk about it a ton during the games, but we have our own radio station, and it's actually in conjunction with our partners here at Beasley and 97.5 The Fanatic. It's Flyers Radio 24/7, and a lot of folks have found it in the streaming world. It's on the Flyers Broadcast Network website, but you can also get it on an ordinary radio in your car. Not ordinary, but HD radio in your car. If you've found those HD channels that are attached to a lot of the FM stations around here, we're on 92.5 HD3, so it's the third HD channel on WXTU's frequency. And we're playing back game replays. We're playing back classic games sometimes if the
games Bundy played in.
Right? Yeah, games Bundy. We went back and we got the reel to reel out, and we dubbed some of these games over. So it's it's a really neat thing to check out if you're you're driving around and want to see what's going on with the team, we try to have basically daily updates on what's going on from practices, what's going on from games. You'll hear highlights after in the morning after games, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's part of it, and we're really jumping into it this year.
Yeah, Hockey and Hounds as well. I'll be talking with Torts weekly.
Yeah.
And we'll have a separate channel for that. It'll be a video element to that as well. So we're looking forward to all of it. It's going to be great. But what I'm looking forward to, other than the season, is to get Bundy's unfiltered, without a Bundy bomb, unfiltered response to the comments of Ivan Provorov.
Now Torch said he's going to leave this alone. Bundy's not, right?
No. Bundy will not be leaving this alone.
The problem I have with it is, why do you got to pour gas on a situation? First of all, there's a lot of things when a player leaves town. And now that he opened his mouth, I guess I'll have an open mind. He was not well liked here. Mm-hmm. He was a lone wolf in a lot of ways, hidden at the far side of the room, didn't do a lot with his teammates. And this is stuff guys tell you. It's not like they're hiding it from you. So he goes off to a new team that, last I checked, I don't think they're going to be winning the Stanley Cup this year either. But he just said, this is, it's really refreshing to be on a team that can make plays and is allowed to make plays. They were worse than the Flyers last year. Like, what are you talking about? First of all, you know what? His best year was his first year. He's the only guy I've ever seen get worse every year. He was great when he got here. He got worse and worse and worse and worse every year. It's amazing they actually got something for him. If you look at the end of the day with the contract he had left, I know he's an asset to certain teams, but I can sit here and let a guy say that. You know what? I'm sorry, but when you get the puck behind your net, you either make the decision to put it to rim it, or you can make a choice to make a play with the puck.
Yep.
Yeah. And if he doesn't like what he says, too bad. That's exactly right. So, I've seen enough. I've heard enough from other guys. I don't need to hear anything from him, hiding behind a reporter in Columbus. All the proof was in the pudding here when you talk to most players.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, Bundy, he was a guy that, you've seen players that think they belong on the power play, but players on teams know who belongs where. And he was a player that thought he belonged on the power play. I don't know how he's going to get to the PP1 there with Werenski. I don't see it. But, that's an issue when a guy thinks that, too.
It is, and I'll say this, I played a top pair with Desjardins. I was thrilled and lucky to have that guy as my partner, and I never tell you anything different. But I didn't play the power play. I was focused. I wasn't a power play player. I wasn't good enough to be on the power play. I can say that. I didn't have the skill to be a top power play guy. Fill in minute here and there. Yeah, everyone does that. Mm-hmm. But I could kill penalties, and I took pride in my own defense. You've got to, if I were him, I would work to become the best defensive defenseman he could be and actually put all the offense to the side, because it's never going to work out for him. As much as he wants to try and tell everybody, he's never going to be a good power play defenseman. And that's it.
Yeah. It's some guys, when they don't get on the power play, they pout about it. And that's not a way to do business. All right, when we come back, we're going to take our last break. We're going to take you right up to the countdown to face off, all the first period action with Tim Saunders and Todd Fedoruk. We're going to give you the lines, and we'll get some predictions and some players to focus on in this game tonight as the Flyers drop the puck on a 2023-24 season in Columbus tonight. And hopefully we don't have to hear that stupid cannon a whole heck of a lot. Carter Hart will get this. Stay tuned. We're back after this. It is the pregame show on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. That's right. We are back, and a little extended pregame show tonight as well. A little late puck drop with the ceremonial first game of the season for Columbus. We'll see that next Tuesday. Flyers in Columbus tonight. Saturday afternoon game in Bundy's hometown of Ottawa to take on the Sens, who lost last night, and they'll be in town to open up at home on Tuesday against Vancouver. And you get Connor McDavid in the first week. Holy. Yeah, that'll be fun to take on McDavid, and we'll see how that goes. But game at hand tonight. First and foremost, let's get to the line combination. I want to get one of the things I love about having Bundy on. I mean, when he and I just talk on the phone, I love the insta reaction from Bundy on any topic. It doesn't even have to be hockey. So let's get the insta reaction on some line combinations. Smitty, who's the Flyers' top line tonight?
Well, we've all been awaiting Bobby Brink getting an opportunity here in the regular season after a terrific preseason, and does he ever get it? Top line right wing, Bobby Brink alongside Sean Couturier with Joel Farabee over on the left side here tonight. So they've been practicing this, I guess, practicing in this formation, I guess, for the last couple of days, and no better way to see what Bobby Brink can do than to throw him out there with those two guys.
What'd you see with Brink? He knocked the door down, Bundy, didn't he?
Yeah, well, let me tell you something, though. I know, so they have that is listed as a top line. It's Farabee, Couturier, and Brink. So if you look at the makeup of that line, you got the big center that's got great defensive prowess. He's protecting those two guys on the wings. So you have a little bit of – there's a settlement there in terms of having the right combination. I'm not sure, though, that's their first line. I mean, I look at Morgan Frost with Tippett and Cam Atkinson. To me, looks like the scarier line. Like if you ask me tonight – Chris, who would you rather? What line, if you were playing, would you rather play against? I would rather play against Couturier's line all day long than the other line. So that's Tippett, Frost, and Atkinson, and I think you could probably flip those if you wanted. But depending on the night, maybe they're the top line another night. But
I think that is night by night basis. Like
three lines look all the same.
Yep.
Right, exactly. They are.
Yeah.
I mean, all three of these lines could be. I mean, I think the third line might have been our first line last year with Noah Cates, Scott Lawton, and Travis Konechny. But real quick, I guess we'll touch just on the Frost line and Cam Atkinson making his regular season return, if you will, in his adopted hometown. I would imagine he might have slept in his own bed last night. Still maintains a residence in Columbus and was incredibly involved in the community there and is probably a de facto deputy mayor of the city. So I'm sure this is a big game for him regardless after missing all of last season, but getting to do it there is probably making it that much more special.
Yeah. And getting him back, it's a twofold addition. Maybe, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Bundy, but you get the leader back. You get the guy that's a total pro back. But Bundy, you never want a player to have to get some kind of core back, anything that's in your core of your body surgery. But he does have that, and he didn't play last year. Can that, at that age that he is, what's he, 31, 32? Can that actually help because your body's had a chance to recover from everything else because you didn't play hockey? Or
I've said it. I have two huge question marks about both Coots and Atkinson. You get older. I mean, it'd be crazy not to. But my hope is that they can stay healthy. But even if they are, I don't. Unless the league has got so many players, what are they now? Right? Like Coots has missed 2 years of hockey. Guys, I was late in my career, and I missed a year with that lockout. Man, I could never get back.
Your career ended with the lockout, basically.
It did. I came back and played. It was a mess, though. I was awful. I mean, that's another story for another day. But I'm just, again, when you're a bigger guy like Coots is. Bigger guy, and getting those wheels going again. Atkinson, it might take time. Like it might, but again, I don't want them to have to go out in the fears of getting hurt again because that's going to help nobody. You just got to go play, and that's the thing with them. That's a long time out. I mean, a long time. 2 years. That's an eternity in pro sports, and Atkinson a whole year. So that's what they're up against, and those are two kind of question marks. I think.
Al, how much does it help to have Cates though, and not have to put Couturier right back in that position of having to defend top lines every night?
That certainly helps, take away some of that defensive hockey that you need, and to provide that good defensive positioning in his own. Same with Lawton too, right? Like he's listed as left winger, but he's also a guy that can play center, play up the middle, do a good job defensively, be a responsible player. And of course, we look at Torts. I mean, Torts requires that of you to play. You got to be committed to defense. You got to be committed to your own zone and doing the right things. And if you're not, you won't play. Just ask the guy in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that line we're looking at too, that'll be, that'll be a versatile line because you've got Lawton there who has been a 58% face-off guy in the past, and he's going to be right alongside Noah Cates every step of the way. If he needs to jump in there and take something, he can do it. They're basically interchangeable depending on what the situation is, but they definitely can take a good bit of that defensive pressure off of the Couturier line when it's needed for them to do so. And then you've got obviously TK there on the right side. Those guys can handle the defensive part of the game whenever TK wants to jump in there and try and make something happen.
Yeah. Bundy, the fourth line, like Smitty doesn't even need to look at his paper. He knows
Love
this
it.
line. It's Paling, Delorier, and Garnet Hathaway, who was a handful. I talked to Scott Lawton, and he just said, this guy, when I played against him, he was a relentless pain in the rear end. Didn't use that word because he's like, I just tried to talk to him, get him off. I just couldn't. And he just is a nightmare to deal with, shift in, shift out.
I'm sorry, I lost you there, Jason. I was just checking on the lines. You're talking about the fourth Ryan Paling and those guys?
Yeah,
Like
and
Hathaway in particular, just a thorn, one of those guys that you hate to play against, but you want them on your team.
So what a line like that does, it's like the old crash line. And again, I've talked to Jonesy over the summer, and there's guys he knows on this team that he swears play better when they're in that line.
Yeah,
skill players that he said they're a necessity to that point. Now, the game has changed, but there's still room for that crash fourth line as long as they're smart and they don't hurt anybody in terms of going to the penalty box. And they didn't last year. Delorier didn't at all. He did a good job last year. Poling's another guy though. You want to see where he's at. He's no longer that first round type of hype talent where he is. He's settled into that fourth line spot. And then Hathaway, I mean, he's great. He could skate. He's big. He hits. He can fight when he needs to. If there's any more of that, but you know what? I like it. It's a well-constructed line. It can give those other three lines a breather and go out and provide energy for you when called upon. Really, really well, a well-constructed fourth line.
I really like the approach too. I mean, normally your fourth line, right? It's your grinder line, your checking line, whatever, and a lot of times it's your younger guys or obviously your bottom three forwards usually end up on it. But last year you look at it, and a lot of times it was Nick Delorier and then whoever the other two forwards were that they needed to do something with, right? So now they've obviously kept Delorier, but it's almost like they've gone out on purpose and found two extremely complementary pieces to him. I'm not sure if they did that on purpose or not, but it certainly has turned out that way. And now you've got a line that is, possibly going to be one of those lines that's known around the league as something you've got to deal with when you play with Philadelphia.
It's like that Islander line was Cizikas, Clutterbuck, and Matt Martin, like total pains in the rear end.
They could score goals to that line.
That's the thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. So Poling might be able to bring that a little bit more of that skill. Because remember, when you're on the fourth line, you're usually only playing against the other team's fourth line unless you're on the road. Mm-hmm. And then if you play the first line, well, the first line don't want to get hit by you anyway. Yeah, so they kind of just wait for the shift to end and get off and move on to the next one. That's what happens.
You want to go out there, have nothing happen for 45 seconds and live to tell another.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's get to the D pairs.
Yeah.
Because this is an area, like Bundy mentioned a concern earlier. This is an area of concern for me. How do these pieces fit together? How do they defend this year? Do they defend better? So let's get to what's the top D pair, Smitty?
So again, this is an area where Ivan Provorov for the last 5 years plus was an absolute anchor on the top line, top pair left side. And now that he's out of the way, for lack of a better term, because the Flyers really couldn't put him anywhere else. He couldn't play the right. And so he was there for 25 minutes a game. Now Cam York is going to slot into that spot, which is his natural position on the left side. They tried to put him on the right a little bit last year just to see if he could play with Provorov. And, it worked out to an extent, but I don't think it's where he's at his best. So now it's York and the newly beefed up Travis Sanheim, who, of course, had a very interesting summer, almost got traded to St. Louis maybe, and then did not. He's put on what we understand is 15 pounds of muscle, Jason. And, it's and Bundy, I'm sure you probably have been through the experience of what a good summer workout might be able to do for your game. This is we might be seeing a renewed Travis Sanheim on this top pair.
You know what my attitude with him is? Just go out and play.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you've gone through the ringer last year. You get called out by the fans. You drew the ire of them. They tried to trade you in the summer. He's like, said, we want to move you. The guy that tried to trade you before didn't want to come here. So you know what? At that point, is you kind of go back in yourself and say, you know what? I'm going to go play hockey. I'm going to go be a hockey player.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do. You get paid every 2 weeks. It's the greatest job in the world. Just go be a happy hockey player and try to be a good one. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of optimism for Sanheim this year because of those things. And, I've been in that spot before. I've been kicked, through my years in the league. And sometimes you just feel like you have no one else except yourself against the rest of the world. Go out and play and make it an acceptable appearance on a nightly basis. But he's making a lot. He's got a lot of term. He's making a lot of money. What I would love to see from him is take a big step forward.
Yeah.
Don't just hide behind somebody. Go out and be the leader. Maybe you'll find out something about yourself that you didn't know before. Cam York cannot play 25 minutes in this league right now. And if they do, the Flyers are going to be in a lot of trouble.
Bundy, with Sanheim going to the right side, you're a left shot defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that's like. There's the advantageous parts in the offensive zone because of the way you see the ice, your stick's in the middle of the ice. But defending, how much of a challenge? Do you think there's more made out of that right-left thing and right shots on the right side? And do you think there's more made of that than there needs to be? Or how do you feel about it as a guy that dealt with oncoming guys attacking you?
Yeah, I think for in the D zone, I think it's not as big a deal. You have to know that you're covering that corner to the middle of the net, right? And then you switch sides unless there's a switch on each side. But that's just fundamental defense, knowing what your responsibilities are.
Structure, yeah.
D zone structure, correct. And then, where things do change though is when your breakout schemes. Does that left-handed player on the right side, does he want to take the puck on his backhand? Does he want to open up and take it on his forehand? Does he want to open up and set up for a shot? Does he want to go on his backhand again to go down the wall? There's a lot of things. When you're moving forward, remember, you can't go, and you could maybe go on your backhand and make a pass, but most of the time you're going to try to stop and make a good crisp pass on your forehand. And that's a lot of the time what happens, I think, when you look at guys from changing sides. I switched once in my career, and I was fine with it. It was at the end of my early year in my career in Hershey, the end of my stint there before I came to the Flyers, and I was fine. I actually liked it. I got used to it and started liking it because I found out there's a few more things you could actually do. And for some reason, it helped the other guy that was playing lefty that wasn't as conducive of going over and playing right.
Yeah. There are definitely advantages to it. The thing is, when you get that puck in the backhand of your D zone, the opposition can read that a lot of times and really attack it. And it's a good opportunity. What are the other two D pairs? We're getting short on time.
We're short on time. So it's a completely new group on the second pairing. It's Mark Stahl going out with Sean Walker, who Torts really liked in camp. And then on the third pair, Igor Zamula will skate with Nick Seeler tonight.
And Carter Hart gets the start for the Flyers. This is awesome. Great way to start the season. Bundy, welcome back. Great to have you
Great
back.
to be back, gentlemen. An interesting road taken to get here, but I'm back and happy to be doing this with you guys. Just so people know, my weeks will look like this. I'll start with you guys, and then I will slide over to Snow the goalie for the intermissions and the post game there.
Yep. It'll be great stuff. Lots of great coverage we will provide all season long. But stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Todd Fedoruk, they've got the countdown to face off for the opener against the Columbus Blue Jackets and all the first period action. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.